Okay. Game 5 of the match, TeamOkay versus Alibby. We've got Exorcist. We've got Silk Merchant.
Really... I see Exo, Silk Merchant, and Grave Robber, and I want all of it. I think Silk Merchant Grave Robber is like really good. Just like, repetitively trash and gain them, and then you just like discover that you've got 30 coffers out of nowhere.
Yeah, one of the things I've talked about before is Grave Robber's a complicated card, and sometimes people shy away from it due to how complex it is. But we'll see if either of them try to dive in and figure it out here.
To be fair, Grave Robber is in general also not the strongest card, so you might, rationally shy away from its weakness. But I think this is the kingdom where it seems to shine.
Yeah, so on 3-4, I'm not quite sure what you do.
The opening is not obvious to me.
On 4-3, I would consider Silk Potion.
Yeah, you want Potion, you want Silk Merchant, and you want Exo. I'm not sure what order you're getting those in.
Is there a contrarian who buys Embargo to Embargo University just to take all the fun out of it?
Or maybe Silk Merchant Exo on the 4-3. Actually, none of them has that. I'm not sure I'm even considering that.
I think, Malo, you're losing too much value on this kingdom by going Pageant on turn 1 or 2. Especially if you're not getting, you're not building up any of those coffers for quite a while. But
yeah, I don't think I'm a big fan of Pageant. I mean, it's not the worst. It's a thing you often buy. But I think Silver's better.
I think you will later on in this kingdom have 3 coins that you're willing to spend on Pageant.
They both start with Exo. I think that's totally reasonable. I don't really have a strong opinion on whether it's better or worse than Potion or Silk Merchant.
Yeah, I would have considered as Alibby gambling there.
100%. Yeah, absolutely you should have gambled there. Just it accelerates you one more card through your deck. There's no other cards coming up that are particularly worthwhile.
Yeah, so neither has gotten a potion yet.
All right, here we see the first potion.
So now I wonder if Alibby just embargoes University here and says, let's have a slog.
Do you play this embargo? I think probably yes. You could buy like a potion and a second Silk Merchant.
Can you make, with Grave Robber, can you make an engine work even without the village with Silk Merchant?
So trashing Silk Merchant to gain a Silk Merchant is in fact a village effect with Grave Robber. I'm not sure that you could build with that as your only village, like Grave Robbering Silks into Silks as your exclusive action source. Because it's like worse than an Acropolis. It's like an Acropolis that takes up two draw instead of 1 draw. But it's theoretically a village effect.
So you've got to have a couple universities to make that deck work. And it also gains those cards, Silk Merchants and Grave Robbers.
Yeah, I mean the other thing that makes this deck work is I want to be exoing things pretty heavily. Like imps and wisps and stuff are also nice non-terminal draw. Because also using silks as your main draw source will be a little bit sad. Silk plus University is not a net village effect, or not a net draw effect.
Yeah, Ghost is going to be tough to village because most of the actions I want to play with here are terminals, other than University.
So Alibby has been a jerk and embargoed University. You do kind of want University anyway, though, don't you? I mean, you could just build lots of Exo things in place of Uni, maybe.
Yeah, and you can Exo some Silk Merchants for imps and
ghosts. I think I'd take at least 1 or 2 universities anyway, probably.
Yeah, I think I would take 2. I think 2 is what I would think about, and then maybe the 3rd, and use a buy when you have it to grab to grab another exorcist.
Yeah. I would be thinking about a second exorcist sometime soon. Why aren't they playing one? I don't understand this. What am I missing? Why would you not draw? You got an exo down there.
Don't know, unless they've worked out exactly what those cards are. No, that seemed like it would have been.
I have no idea why you'd not. Why? It didn't cost a villager to draw. They had the action. That didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, so I would certainly, if you don't draw on, exercise the Silk Merchant to an imp, but I think you do need to get Grave Robbers soon.
Yeah, I mean, now with a Silk Merchant on the trash, Grave Robber comes with a free Silk. Or Overlord here could Grave Rob that Silk.
Yes, they did elect to gain a university for the curse.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
I think Alibby has a pretty significant lead in the Silk split, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah. In general, having a lot of Silk Merchants tends to be worth a lot. Yeah, so Malo pointed out in the chat, if you play Overlord as your first card of the turn, and then play it as Tormentor, you don't actually get the Imp, because the if you have no other cards in play refers to Tormentor. But in fact, there is another card in play, the Overlord that played the Tormentor, even if the Tormentor itself is not in play. So it hexes you anyway. I discovered this when it was the 2019 championships. I was in the quarterfinals match versus Psychomatic, and that update, the Overlord errata, had just been rolled out like a few weeks ago, and I don't think anyone quite realized how it worked yet. And so I opened Overlord with the exclusive purpose of playing it as Tormentor, and then did so, and then it gave out the hex, and I was like, shit, I've made a mistake. Psychomatic, I think, also was surprised to learn that Overlord worked differently now with Tormentor. Because prior to the errata, it actually worked. Overlord became the card, per se, and so what did count as the only card.
I would have, as Alibby on their last turn, taken a gold, or not taken a gold, taken an Overlord. Especially if they're going to be playing with imps, they want to have unique action cards in their deck that they can play with their
You
imps.
were in there for a second, but yeah, Overlord seems fine.
Especially because it looks like they're going to be gaining a bunch of imps. Or something.
Yeah, I don't think wait, someone here has the gold.
Alibby bought a gold.
You shameful person.
So if you're going to turn it into a ghost, I would have bought Sacred Grove.
Yeah.
And then you can always play it if you feel like it, because it's a good card. Or a Grave Robber could be a ghost as well. Yeah.
They don't seem to be aiming for the Grave Robber deck. I'm not sure what the end goal of their deck is supposed to be, to be honest.
As I said to J-Nels, this is a medium games match, and I think in medium games, most of the players will just not look at Grave Robber very much. I think it's one of those things where if you really understand how it works, it can be really powerful, but it's tricky, and I know I sometimes will. It's one of those cards that when I was newer to the game, I read it a few times, and my eyes would glaze over it, and I would just ignore it like it was Counting House, a beggar.
Yeah, I think Grave Robber shines for the most part in really strong engines. Like Grave Robber Livery is like among Grave Robber's best cases. When you have tons of like action and draw, and you just need a thing that creates a lot of payload really fast, the ability to like Grave Rob things mid-turn into more Grave Robbers, then grab the thing you trashed. That sort of snowball effect makes it really good. Here, the engine's a little bit weaker, to be fair, right? Like you don't have phenomenal actions or draw, but the Silk Merchant interaction, I think, is what makes it worth it here. Is getting like an extra coffer and a villager every time you play Grave Robber. It's like if you put training and lost arts on the Grave Robber pile. It starts to look a lot better.
One of the things about Grave Robber that's tough sometimes is you have it like, oh, it's my terminal this turn. It's like, oh, but I've played all my villages and my smithies, and now I just have a card that's doing nothing. But in this kingdom, we've already got a stack of Silk Merchants in the trash, and Silk Merchant has this additional on-gain effect, which is super powerful. Looks like Alibby is getting a ghost, so they did not buy the gold for the gold reason.
Yeah, that at least makes the gold buy look a bit more sensible. Ghost is not a bad card here by any stretch.
Yeah, TeamOkay has gotten a couple of provinces already, so they seem to be ahead, and they've now picked up a Grey Robber. So hopefully they're starting to see the potential of that here. Maybe they're also thinking they could. Is it they who bought the Sacred Grove? No, Alibby had it. But they can turn a Sacred Grove or another Grey Robber can be a province the last turn of the game.
I still am not quite getting like the purpose of these decks. Oh yeah, okay. Finally, we're grave robbing a Silk Merchant. I like that. Rather than top decking one, I thought you would have trashed one of the ones that's in your hand. I don't think you want to draw one. Maybe you do.
You can't actually gain one, right? You can only. Yeah, but they have enough Silk Merchants for
they couldn't trash Silk Merchant into Silk Merchant for the village effect because they're empty, but they could gain one from the trash or trash one in their hand. I was thinking trash one in your hand seemed like the better of the two options.
To gain a Grave Robber probably, and then
yeah, that'd be fine. Oh, honestly, like I hate to say it, like at this point in the game, maybe the better thing to get is just like a gold and pivot towards just buying provinces quickly, because like, I feel like they haven't fully built the Grave Robber thing, and it's already scoring time. I kind of didn't get where these decks were going. Like it felt a little bit disorganized. Their sequence of buys and what they were attempting to accomplish with it.
That was quite a bit of an unfortunate end of that shuffle for Alibby, though. They had all their imps just below, so they had to play the Will-O-Wisps. If they hadn't bottom decked both the imps, they could have had quite a bit more actions here. But I suspect to see another province.
Yeah, province here seems fine. Alibby, I think, seems to be in the lead.
Yeah, I think they won the Silk Merchant split 7-3, something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Their Ghost also missed the shuffle, but they're going to get to start this turn with a big hand.
Yep.
I guess Ghost almost always misses the shuffle in some way or another.
Yeah.
It's tough to get a Ghost and get the effect of it and not actually see the shuffle in a normal kind of deck where Ghost is a good card.
The monuments really do not inspire me. Like, I don't think TeamOkay has the actions to reliably play these monuments.
Yeah. They have one university and no villagers.
Yeah.
So here we'll see if Alibby does do the Grave Robber trick again.
I would think that you do. I mean, you could also just like Grave Rob Grove into province right now, maybe. Not be unreasonable either. Yeah, I don't think your opponent can double province, can they? Probably not.
They've got a Grave Robber and an Overlord, so it's not impossible. But they also have to draw enough money alongside that, which is, I think, too much.
Oh, do they even have two targets? Oh, you're thinking like just Grave Robber the Overlord and buy a province.
Yeah.
If you're Grave Robbing the Silk, I think maybe now the ideal target would be Duchy, even.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like turn Silk into Duchy and buy province also seems pretty fine.
Yeah, if you get that duchy, then you can just trade provinces and win the game by 1. So that puts TeamOkay into a tough position. Although it's looking like they may be able to double province here, which is probably not safe, but they can.
Oh, no, never mind. It's not just a win. There's 3 provinces left in the pile, not 2. Nonetheless, this looks quite good.
They have enough for province double duchy.
Do you know what this last card is? I'll be thinking about whether to gamble here.
I'm not tracking that closely.
Yeah, I have no idea. Likewise, if I were Alibby, I'd be thinking about what that is, and if it's not a good card, I would consider just doing like province plus gamble to get it off the top. It does seem plausible that it might be the province.
So you like saving the coffers for next turn?
Yeah, I would think so. Gives you that double province threat. I don't think your opponent can do double. I mean, you could just buy 2 provinces. I don't think that's unreasonable. Like 2 provinces and then turn the soap merchants into imps. Seems pretty good as well.
Then your opponent needs 9 to beat you? 9 money? Is
that true? 9 and a gain?
Yeah.
Where's the 9 coming from?
Well, they would be down by 7 points. Sorry. They would need 10 in 2 gains.
Well, I would think you just do like province and then grave up something to duchy. Yeah, I think the ideal play here is gamble province and then look to win on the next turn.
Looks like they're going province duchy, which seems safe, but maybe you're adding more stop cards to your deck.
Ooh, interesting. Triple duchy. So I think they're really worried about double province, which I think overestimates the strength of TeamOkay's deck right now. Like TeamOkay has a single village and no villagers. I'm not sure how their deck ever kicks off.
Yeah, as we see here, their turn's pretty much over at this point. They can gain a single province. But if that monument were a silver, for example, they could do something more.
That monument ended up where it belongs. Actually, that's not quite true. That monument deserves to stay in the supply and not get bought in the first place.
So this is quite a nice boon with the ghost coming in.
Yeah.
I assume you put the imp on top.
Nah, you got to be fancier than that. You should have put the copper on top instead of discarding it outright to get the ghost discard. For those extra points.
Yeah, and it looks like Alibby can just buy another duchy here and play the ghost and feel pretty happy that they're gonna more than province next turn with the card draw.
Yeah, I don't think I'd bother playing the Exo here.
Although we did I was gonna say we saw TeamOkay's Overlord Grave Robber last turn, but they did just shuffle. So
I don't think they'll be seeing the Grave Robber this turn.
Yes, it's in the trash.
They got to province. This just feels losing. Like, you know your opponent can do province. If they have an Overlord set aside, the odds of missing are literally 0 because they could just like monument and then buy it with their coffers. So you can't buy province. Buying duchy also seems pretty losing.
Yeah, it's a tough spot here.
Not sure what the best usage of this Overlord is. Could consider like double Tormentor or double Monument. They're doing double Sacred Grove, which is probably better. I like that.
Fairly decent chance of getting them to 16 here.
This looks like a win.
I think they're one short.
Did I speak too soon? Oh my goodness, I spoke too soon. Yeah.
Well, I still think double duchy here seems perfectly safe.
Yeah.
With the 4 coffers. Although TeamOkay's got
Undo and trap copper.
3, but they'll have a 5th. Alibby will have a 5th one here after their pageant.
As Alibby, I'm not too worried about how many coffers my opponent has, because if you take the 2 duchies, they have to get both provinces to win. And so even if you know that, like, oh yeah, they can province with those 3 coffers, what's important is that you can province back.
Right. Or that they don't have 7 coffers or something that makes a double possible.
Yeah.
And that's
they don't have that much.
The saddest spots in Dominion is when your opponent's doing some kind of Baker stack and you're like, I'm hoping for a dud, except it's a single by kingdom and your opponent has 12 coffers. And it's like, oh, they can full dud a turn, just draw 5 provinces, and they can still buy a province in their next turn.
State time. Or not? Double state. Okay.
I guess. I'm not sure. So what does Alibby need to get? They need to get to 10 here, and they can just go province to state.
Province to state seems pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, that would require province triple estate, province double estate to tie, which is 12, which is a lot. Although it's not impossible with some kind of grave robber trick.
Yeah, I mean, TeamOkay also has some difficulty coming up with like the actions and buys for all that. Well, actually, what about here? So if you overlord Silk Merchant into a state, then play Monument, that ties? That works, right?
No, they only have 39 then.
No, isn't that a win? So they were down by 8 points. You gain an estate, you gain a monument point, and you gain a province.
Get a monument point. Oh, the coffer.
I'm pretty sure
yes,
that
would
right?
have tied. I believe.
Yeah, I think they pat there.
I think they didn't count the coffer that they would gain from trashing there. Or
yeah, I guess not.
Again, in my mind, grave robber kind of by default can only gain cards that are more expensive than it. Or you know what I mean? It's
and maybe that's the mistake. They just didn't think about gaining the estate. I don't know.
Weird to I don't know. I've done things where like I alter Silk Merchant into Curse to get a pile out and use that extra coffer. But
here's an alternative, perhaps more stylish way to do it. You could. Oh, never mind. I was gonna say you could grave rob the Silk Merchant into Monument and then gamble it, but that is not the half of grave robber that top decks. That would not have worked. Oh well.
Yeah, it's a confusing card. There's a lot of text there, and it's the 2 different cases are not quite parallel.
I don't have a tie here, I don't think. What do they even do? You touch estates, your opponent's guaranteed to win.
You grave robber the Silk Merchant into another grave robber. Well, you have to get
getting it back from the trash seems probably optimal. I would think
you have to get both. You have to get all the remaining green and play some monuments to win from this point.
Maybe the best is to gain the grave robber and then gamble the grave robber and then trash this and then gain the silk, and that puts it just probably doesn't matter. You're not getting back onto the grave robber anyway. It's just a win.
Yeah. So Ghost, good card.
Ghost is a pretty good card. I think it's the weakest of the 3 Exorcist things, but it worked out pretty well here.
Yep. All right, good game there for Alibby. They're on a streak here. Have won the last 3, and there's only 4, so looks like a 3-1 match victory for Alibby.
All righty, good match.
Yeah, it somewhat wasn't a university cage match. And yeah, I think the turn count is lower if they go for more grave robber stuff, but in the end, there's not that much payload in these decks, so hitting 8 on every turn was difficult.
Yeah, interesting kingdom though.
All right, thank you very much, Daniels, for joining me, and congrats to Alibby on the match victory.